Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome to Talking Politics. I am Robert Press, your host. I write for the Bronx Chronicle, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and Parkchester Times. The latter, like this show, is owned by Muslim media. The views expressed on this show are those of the host, any guests, or commentators you may see at the bottom of the screen. We hope everybody had a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and if you are celebrating Kwanzaa, we hope that it's happy right now. The weather for the next 4 days should be clear, with today's temperature getting up into the low 50s. Saturday, the high should be about 46, Sunday about 45, Monday about 44. However, at night, it will get into the 30s, so remember to keep your heat on. The rainfall for December 2023 has been 6.61 inches, or about 4 inches more than normal. And the total rainfall for 2023 so far has been 59.19 inches, which is not a record, but close to it. Now, let me go into my review of 2023, items that happened. Mr. George Santos went to Washington, and then he got booted. In another first, the now disgraced GOP former Congressman George Santos became the first Republican to be expelled from the House of Representatives. The lower chamber voted to remove Santos after a damning House Ethics Committee report alleged campaign finance abuses and that the congressman had engaged in fraudulent conduct. Expelling a member of Congress takes a 2/3 majority vote. The last time a House lawmaker was expelled was more than 2 decades ago when the former Jim Taffigan, a Democrat from Ohio, was voted out of Congress in 2002. Prior to his outing, Taffigan had been convicted of 10 felony counts, including racketeering and taking bribes. Santos has not been convicted of a crime, but he has been indicted on 23 counts related to wire fraud, identity theft, falsification of records, credit card fraud, and other charges. Santos has been accused of using campaign funds on a number of luxury goods and treatments such as Botox. He has pled not guilty to those charges. The vote to oust Santos was 311 to 114. Slightly more Republicans voted to keep Santos than to oust him. Hunter Biden had his tax problems. In general, Hunter Biden has been at the center of several controversies throughout 2023. The president's son is now facing criminal tax charges as his father seeks re-election in 2024. The younger Biden's federal charges are in connection with the alleged 4-year scheme in which he did not pay federal income taxes from January 2017 to October 2020, also while filing false tax returns. Special counsel David Weiss alleged Hunter engaged in a 4-year scheme not to pay at least $1.4 million in self-assessed federal taxes he owed for tax years 2016 through 2019, and from about January 2017 through or about October 15, 2020, to evade the assessment of taxes for tax year 2018, while he filed false returns on about February 2020. Weiss said Hunter spent millions to fund an extravagant lifestyle rather than paying tax bills. Hunter will make his initial appearance in a California federal court on 9 tax-related charges January 11, 2014. Kevin McCarthy's ouster as the House Speaker and the fight to replace him. The biggest political story of the year in the House of Representatives saw it ousting its leader for the first time in American history this October. Now former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy of California was removed from his post by 8 Republicans led by Florida Republican Matt Gaetz. The House Republicans voted McCarthy out and were joined by every Democrat in the chamber in the vote. McCarthy's ouster led to a near month-long fight to determine the House Republican who would get the gavel. 3 top House Republicans, Majority Leader Steve Scalise of Louisiana, Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio and Majority Whip Tom Emmer of Minnesota made attempts for the gavel, but all were shot down by their conference. The speaker fight culminated with the election of Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana to the position. And he said that the January 6th footage would be released just weeks after being elected to the speakership. Johnson made a massive move in congressional transparency. He released 40,000 hours of footage from the January 6th Capitol riots. When I ran for speaker, I promised to make accessible to the American people the 44 hours of video from Capitol Hill security taken on January 6, 2021. Truth and transparency are critical, Johnson said in a statement. Today, when he released it, that is, we will begin immediately posting video on a public website and move as quickly as possible to add to the website nearly all the footage. More than 40,000 hours. In the meantime, a public viewing room which will ensure that every citizen can view every minute of the videos uncensored. That is, people going through windows, coming in, going through offices, whatever was there. I will get to CB11 at the second part of the show, AJ. Johnson continued, the decision will provide millions of Americans, criminal defendants, public interest organizations, and the media all availability to see for themselves what happened on that day rather than having to rely on the interpretation of a small group of government officials. Johnson said roughly 5% of the footage would be held back due to sensitive security information relating to building architecture, and that some faces would be blurred to avoid people from being targeted for retaliation of any kind. On to our next item, Donald Trump. Trump's criminal charges. Former President Donald Trump is facing criminal charges of his own in Georgia after the former president was indicted on state charges out of Fulton County relating to efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in the crucial southeastern battleground state of Georgia. The current GOP presidential frontrunner is facing charges that include violating Georgia's RICO Act, the Racketeer Influence and Corruption Organizations Act, solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, conspiracy to commit false statements and writings, conspiracy to commit false filing documents, and conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, filing false documents, and solicitation of violation of the oath by a public officer. However, Trump is also facing criminal charges in other states. Trump was first charged in March through Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's year-long investigation relating to the hush money payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign. DA Bragg alleged that Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal the criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. Trump pled not guilty to all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in New York. Meanwhile, the Colorado Supreme Court has ruled Donald Trump off the Colorado Republican primary ballot, which is going to the United States Supreme Court, which should have a ruling on it in early 2024. There are 25 other states, including New York, that want to keep Trump off the Republican ballot. Meanwhile, Colorado Republicans have decided to caucus instead of having a primary, which Donald Trump will then be able to participate in. Also recently, a Michigan Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump will stay on the Michigan presidential ballot. Finally, here in the Bronx, in the 13th Council District of the East Bronx, Republican conservative candidate Christy Marmorato defeated incumbent Democrat City Councilwoman Marjorie Velazquez 52% to 48%. Councilwoman Marmorato will have a lot on her plate comes January 2nd. The Just Home Jacoby Hospital Project, the Metro North Upzoning Project, the City of Yes, and of course, Community Board 10 and Community Board 11 appointments. The councilwoman will be working out of the previous councilwoman's office by Lehman High School on East Tremont Avenue until the new location that she wants is approved by the city. Meanwhile, New York's highest court has declared that the state to redraw its congressional lines in handing Democrats a major win in the fight for control of the United States House of Representatives in the upcoming 2024 election. By a 4-3 vote, the New York State Court of Appeals ordered the state to restart the remapping process. New York's bipartisan independent redistricting committee will be tasked with creating a new map. The Democratic-controlled state legislature will have ultimate say over the new lines for the 26 congressional districts, as they will be able to approve or not approve them or change them up to 2% of the districts. The long-awaited decision could help Democrats flip a key number of Republican-held House seats that they won at the last election. The GOP currently holds an extremely thin majority in the House, one that grew even smaller with the recent expulsion of New York Republican George Santos. Former Congressman Tom Suozzi is going for that seat again, and he is facing a Republican opponent. Let's go to the minimum wage hikes that are starting for January 1st. New Yorkers are getting a pay raise January 1st. On January 1st, the minimum wage will go into effect, and it will go up to $16 an hour in New York City, Westchester, and Long Island, $15 an hour upstate, Governor Hochul said. By 2026, people working in restaurants, nail salons, car washes in the New York City area will see their wages grow to $17 an hour. As far as it goes, New York City, Long Island, and Westchester, December 23, $15, January 24, $16, January 25, $16.50, January 26, $17 an hour. Upstate, it will be $14.20 currently. January 2024 will go up to $15. January 2025, it goes to $15.50. January 26, it goes to $16. The minimum wage was last increased in 2019, said State Senator Jessica Ramos, the Senate's Labor Committee chair, and she argued that it will help working families. Before I go to a commercial, I'll quickly go through what to look for in 2024 politically. If I had to make a prediction of what the November 5th general election will look like in 2024, it's going to probably look like a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's too early right now to say who may win. In Congress, here in the Bronx, what will the new congressional districts look like, and who will wind up with Co-op City? Will Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez keep it? Will Fireman George Bowman get it back? Or will Richie Torres wind up with Co-op City, as Elliot Engel once had Riverdale to Co-op City? So we don't know who will wind up with Co-op City. Word is that it may stay as it is right now, but I know for sure that the Bronx Democratic Party does not want AOC to have a foothold in Co-op City, which would then help Assembly candidate Soto possibly beat Michael Benedetto for that Assembly seat, the 82nd Assembly seat, which goes from Throgs Neck up to Co-op City. So my prediction will be that Richie Torres will wind up with Co-op City. In the 33rd Senate District, there should be a rematch between State Senator Gustavo Rivera and challenger Migliero Camilo. Has State Senator Gustavo Rivera done a good job that warrants him to be reelected? The voters will probably wind up with that answer. And in the State Assembly, will this be the last year for Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz? As his popularity wanes, the Unity Democratic Club will come up with a candidate, but will they be able to beat the elder statesman? And can Unity hold on to the two district leaders that they have in the 81st Assembly District? Rest of the Bronx, there shouldn't be much change. And we'll go into other figures when I come back from my commercial. So let's go to a commercial right now.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely convince you.
Welcome back to Talking Politics. Let me go into unemployment numbers as the November 2023 numbers were released and compare them to November 2022. In the United States, unemployment was at 3.5% in 2023, November, compared to 3.4 a year before, for a decrease or an increase of 0.1%. In New York State, the unemployment rate was 4% compared to 3.8%, or up 0.2 of a point. The Albany-Schenectady area is one of the lowest unemployment areas in the state at 3.2%, but it is up from 2.7% in 2022. Buffalo had an unemployment rate of 4% compared to 3.3%. Nassau, Suffolk, the unemployment rate was 3.3% this year compared to 2.7% last year. And as we get into New York City, the unemployment rate was 4.7%. Compared to 5% last year, or a drop of 0.3 of a point. Staten Island, the unemployment rate is 4.2% compared to 4.9%, or a drop of 0.7%. Queens had an unemployment rate of 4.1% compared to 4.5%, a drop of 0.4%. Manhattan, the unemployment rate went up to 4.3% from 4.1%. And here in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, the unemployment rate was 5.1%, down from 5.3%. And here in the Bronx, the unemployment rate was the highest in the state at 6.1%, but it was down from 7% for a loss of 0.9%. So things are getting better in the Bronx. And the lowest unemployment rate was 2.8% in Saratoga, upstate New York. Before I get into Community Board 11, a couple of quick things from Attorney General James. She took down a car theft ring in the Bronx, which two brothers were charged with 16 crimes related to theft and possession of stolen vehicles between January and October 2023. The indictment was unsealed in the Bronx Supreme Court, came as a result of a joint investigation by the Attorney General's Organized Crime Task Force and New York City Police Department's Auto Crime Division. That's Auto Crime Division was recently started this year to go after the rising auto crime rate. You can see more of this, including pictures of the two brothers inside cars as they were stealing them, on my blog at www.100%bronx.blogspot.com. That's www.100%bronx.blogspot.com, where you'll see the photos and a little bit more with statements from the Attorney General and from Police Commissioner Caban. Now, also the Attorney General is investigating a civilian death in the Bronx, where on the morning of December 23rd, New York City police officers responded to a residence in the Bronx following reports of a domestic dispute. Upon arrival, they found that a person had his arms wrapped around the woman's neck with a knife. She and a second woman present at the scene appeared to have been slashed by a person. One of the officers fired at this person, striking him in the head, where he was transported to a local hospital and pronounced dead. Because this happened with a police officer firing his weapon, the Office of Special Investigation by the Attorney General has to look into this, and these are preliminary facts, and no charges have been filed as of yet. Mayor Adams provided an update on that steam pipe leak, and the problem with that steam pipe leak is that when you have hot water in a pipe, in the old days, and these pipes are 100 years old, it was in Midtown Manhattan, these pipes are covered with asbestos, which is a cancer-causing disease, and they had basically closed off a big section of Midtown Manhattan. However, Mayor Adams says everything is okay now, and it's back to normal. Okay, now on to Bronx Community Board 11 for you, AJ. The scheduled December 19th full board meeting didn't have one problem. There was no fighting, no name calling, as one might say, because that has become almost a regular at this Community Board 11 meetings. They last for hours on hours on hours. The last November meeting lasted almost 4 hours, but this one was no problems because no one was in the room because there was no meeting. The Bronx Community Board 11 meeting scheduled for December 19th had to be canceled at less than 2 hours before it was to take place because it appears that when the district manager went to this meeting, he was there at 5 p.m. for the 7 o'clock meeting, and he couldn't get into the room. The person that he was supposed to get permission from was on vacation. Nobody else at Montefiore, even one of the Community Board 11 members who worked at Montefiore, could not get the place open, so the meeting had to be canceled. At the January full board meeting, though, Community Board 11 will have to take up the resolutions they did not vote on at the December meeting. There were a couple of liquor licenses and cannabis retail locations. However, that they only have a 30-day period, or with the cannabis, if they get the addition, it's 60 days, but those times have run out. So whatever Community Board 11 was going to comment, they're going to have to send it in after the fact. Let me just go on to the official Community Board 11 Facebook page. An item dated September 5th. There is a caption on 2 photos. Well, it's official. Tonight, all 11 new CB11 board members were sworn in at the borough president's swearing-in ceremony at Lehman College. Welcome. And Mr. Edward Perez is in one of the 2 photos that is up on the Community Board 11 official page dated September 5th. Also on the Community Board official page for 11, this is just Community Board 11. There's another page, Citizens of Community Board 11, which, quote unquote, is the unofficial page of Community Board 11. However, it's run by the social media committee of Community Board 11, so I don't see how it's not connected. But on the official Community Board 11 Facebook page, dated September 4th, is a caption. On Thursday, August 17th, Bronx Community Board 11 Chair Bernadette Ferreira and Bronx Community Board 11 District Manager Jeremy Warnke welcomed our new Bronx CB11 members at a meet and greet. 8 of the 11 new members were officially will be introduced to the Bronx Community Board 11 members and the public at their September full board meeting, which did happen and we have done this in the past. It says we ask our board members to submit a brief bio in an email to Jeremy, the district manager. In the photo that is up on the page, there is Angel Diaz, new board members, Eddie Aguero, Katie and Allen, Edward Perez, Mary Elkin, Stacey Ann DeLeon, Bernadette Ferrara, and DeJuan Jones, and Jeremy Warnke. There is a note that Wendy Hewlett Betts had to leave early, and that 3 other new board members, Ryan Barthel, Juan Luciano, and Susan Perez, were not in the photo. Now, at the December 19th Ethics Committee meeting of Community Board 11, there was discussion about an ethics complaint against Chair of CB11, Bernadette Ferrara. The videotape of the meeting is on the YouTube link, and you have to go to the video for the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee 12/2023 video for this meeting. At about the 14-minute mark, Mr. Edward Perez is brought in to explain why he filed his complaint against Board Chair Bernadette Ferrara. Mr. Perez states that he watched videos of CB11 before he wanted to join the board, saying that the chair already labeled new board members as political operatives. At about the 21-minute mark, he says his address was shared because he was labeled a political operative / activist by the chair. Her first post was in March. He did not get his email from the board until April that he was appointed. The chair of the board shared his address even before he was appointed to the board. When asked to clarify, he said, 1, she was using the 90-day probation period as a way to silence him, to shut him up. Before I even came to the board, there was a target on my back. The ethics meeting lasted 2 hours and 19 minutes. There was other material on there. However, Mr. Edward Perez is listed as being appointed on August 1st, 2023, and his first full board meeting was on September 2023. Now, finding out a person's address is very easy, Mr. Edward Perez, as I have done here. I have Mr. Edward Perez's address right here on the deed to his house. Okay, and I'll go into that in a moment. The deadline for applying to Bronx Community Board 11 was extended from March 3rd to March 15th to allow more people to apply. I foiled the applications of all community board members and a few other items that I was told while I was placed on Community Board 11 would be able to be foiled. First, I was told my foil was too large, and I was sent public information that I already had, that I resent an email that the information I have requested, that I had that information, and that is not what I requested. The information, then I received an email, the information I requested no longer exists. I wrote back to the BP's office, how could that be, since when I applied to the community board on the letter I received was that the BP was not able to appoint me at this time and my application would be kept on file should a vacancy occur. The matter was then turned over to the Department of Investigation to find out what happened to the Community Board 11 information that I foiled and where it is. Now, Mr. Perez bought a house in Community Board 11, yes. He had to apply by March 15th. However, the deed here is dated April 10th, 2023, which is well after the March 15th deadline for applying to Community Board 11. Some may say, well, he had intent to buy the house. And you know what? I had intent to buy a car the past couple of days. I went into a car dealer. We made an agreement. I had all set. I went to the bank, got a check for the money for the car. I went to the dealership the next day, and I was sitting in the dealership for 2 hours. And afterwards, I said, what's happening? I was told that the inspection machine was down. I said, this is a new car. How does it have to be inspected? I was being given the runaround, and I said to the dealer, you know what? Forget it. Let's end this. And the dealer said, okay, we'll just end this deal. So even though you have intent, it doesn't mean you're going to buy something. And we have seen people go and even put deposits down on houses or cars or other things, and the deals don't go through. So this application here, this deed application for Mr. Edward Perez, and he lived in Ozone Park, Queens at the time at 4/10/2023. So I do not know how Mr. Edward Perez was appointed to Community Board 11, although he says, like in the Ethics Committee meeting, that he watched videos of Community Board 11. Mr. Perez bought the house right near the new Metro North station. He works in Manhattan, so it will be very easy for him to take the Metro North station to work in Manhattan. But Borough President Vanessa Gibson, maybe this is why you did not release the applications to me, that you did not want me to see that Mr. Edward Perez did not live in Community Board 11 or have any work in Community Board 11 at the time he applied for Community Board 11. And there is at least two other appointees or reappointed members of Community Board 11 that I have found out did not live in Community Board 11 at the time of their appointment. One of them was reappointed, and he just recently moved into an apartment in the Pelham Parkway area. Don't worry, Mr. Gray, I won't tell you the public where your apartment is, or I should say your room you rented. And this is the information that I foiled, like I said, that has not been given to me, and it's been turned over to the Department of Investigation, and I'm going to leave it here. And Borough President Diaz, now Borough President Gibson, now would you like to give me the application information that I want? Okay, because I have found out information elsewhere, and it's going to be very damning when you try to get reelected in 2025. And let me end here. I was going to go into something else here, Mellow Times, which is having a crowdfunding campaign, but I'll call up this guy. He's trying to open up a cannabis dispensary in Co-op City. It's a prime location. I may have him on the show next week to talk about the cannabis dispensary he's trying to open. And let me say goodbye to Kevin. Happy New Year to Kevin. Happy New Year to everybody. and I will see you next year. So thank you for watching the show.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the website they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers